We'll make the meeting going here. Yeah, there's the Chuck there. You guys can be being that our speaker is down here over at the Gulo building. And Mr. Volzon, would you lead us in O Canada?
I have a cold Neil. Help me out, buddy.
Neil.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all lives us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, a true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
And if we all grab a glass. Toast to Canada.
Canada.
To the Queen. And the Kitchener Westmount Rotary Club. Let us bow our heads. Pardon me, excuse me. If there's any Rotarians that have brought a guest along, would you mind introducing the guest?
I have with me Wasay, who is considering joining Rotary, and he's actually probably a guest of Ian, but I've adopted him.
And our guest speaker is?
Jay. Jay will be more suitably introduced.
We'll do the invocation. Please bow your heads. Lord of the universe, you have given most of mankind a strong desire to do good, to be honest, to serve others, and to faithfully fulfill their obligations to their neighbors. Let us, as Rotarians and humans, do good. Let us, as Rotarians and humans, be honest and ethical in all our dealings. Let us, as Rotarians and humans, to serve others. And help us, as Rotarians and humans, to faithfully fulfill our obligations as neighbors to our community, our nation, and the world. Amen.
Very good.
And the head table can go to
Leo.
Leo.
Pardon?
Our vote has no problem.
Exactly. How are you?
You're up for second there. Come on, get in there. Same as I do.
Started off with 5 days. Everything in that area is
What are you? Hi, how are you? I'm Nicole. Hi, pleasure to meet you.
Join our club, we do work.
Rangers are gonna start soon.
And my granddaughter's boyfriend played for the Waterloo system.
Is that right? Good for him.
Well, see, what a lot of people don't know, Caledonia has been the best team ever. They went single in every year.
What are you gonna tell us?
Like someone off the roster. Well, this year, we decided to buy. So, canceled the whole thing, all these players gotta find some place to go. That's how Owen got to play for us.
Is he from the area?
Oh, yeah, he goes to Oregon.
Oh, good for him. I was up at the odd last night and the Dutchmen were on the ice before us. Boy, those kids can fly. But they chew up the ice, Dutchman would be junior B. Junior B. That's 17, 18.
Right up to one.
Okay, yeah. So there'd be, you know, there'd be a number of kids that couldn't end up playing with the Rangers. Guys get hurt, or Rangers draft a kid and he's 6 feet up and he'll play for the Dutch.
Get a fine feel like that.
It's all right. You want to devil you?
Oh, stop it!
Nope. I'll have to look for it again. I don't think I saw it. Was there any attachments? I didn't know. It's kind of scary.
I don't know if you have to do that.
Very good.
Coming out right now.
Taking a look at it.
Having to do a lot.
Yeah.
Catholic Church used to allow priests to use. They were running into difficulties on his diet. The church land belonged to the priest. And we were having problems. The priest would die, and then his family would be claiming on the church land. The church didn't want to give up the land. So the Roman Catholic Church decided, okay, that's it. We want to keep our land. This land is well. And they hated having all these disputes. Kids and wives of the dead priest, well, I've been living on the land with the priest for, whatever, 30, 40 years. I want to remain here. I want to claim to it. They said, all right, that's it. No more marriage.
Now, when was that?
We're learning about it.
So that's how that got started. It had nothing to do with celibacy.
No.
No.
They gave the celibacy argument after the fact.
Yeah, really? I guess they didn't have prenups.
And do you know why most young boys today are not entering the priesthood? No, this is not as cold. A lot of food. So anyway, I must have I got an email yesterday with Gordie Howe picture. He's seen this stuff. And he's got he's sitting in the doctor's room at the hockey game. They're stitching from here all the way around here. And he keeps saying, hurry up, I gotta get back to the ice. This is Gordie, right? Hurry up. So finally he shows him up and he gets up and he turns around and says, you're not going anywhere. He said, this will be right in. The old elbow. I thought that was so funny.
He was such a gentleman on the ice. He was a mean son of a...
He was, yes, he was.
I read a book about him. Very interesting guy, humble upbringing. But he almost killed Stan Mikito. And he waited, I think he waited several games to go into the back. Mikito was young, he was pretty cocky. He had a lot of penalties. And he just, in one game, he just had like this.
That was What is the unique story about You know what you call an abortion? Anyway, his claim to fame was he's the first non-North American to win the scoring championship in America.
Oh, okay. I can believe that.
He asked me his win.
Have you seen Bobby Hall lately? You know what a balloon looks like? Oh my goodness!
Got some bad habits. Is he really? Oh yeah. That's something for him.
He's almost exactly my age. He's 59 or 60.
Is that old?
He's within a year of me, and I always remember that. Went to senior pro school, which I went by the time he went to senior pro, he went to but I always remember that. Exactly the same.
John, you look there indeed.
Well, I didn't. My career didn't last. I didn't use my body to do the same. We talk about my hockey career.
I remember him as a skinny kid.
That's all it is. He doesn't like war, or he doesn't like Tory. He was on city council.
And his daughter.
On Monday, they issued a stamp with Trump's picture on it.
Spitting on him.
They recalled it.
I think you may have borrowed it.
No, I started. My daughter,
The alternative was.
my daughter works
That was the problem.
on Thursday nights at Greenwood Manor, and she plays cards and poker with the old lady, one of my old ladies, 3 of them are 400. Is that?
She would have, you know what, she would have good.
Pretty good. Anyway, they called her in the office after, and they told her that they're not going to allow
No,
her to play.
and the father did.
And that's exactly what
Brian,
he said.
Brian.
He said, "She's feeling drunk."
Oh, yeah, he goes. But it came out public saying.
What's the other?
But it's like,
You can't help but look.
I'm getting good at it. I just turn it away because I know I won't enjoy it.
He invokes it. They could still.
Find new ways to do something.
It looks like we have a free year left.
You and Brett are very clearly visible. Take them out. So of course the opposition is all around.
they put an addition on St. Rose University, where I go to roof, and they finished it last week, but I went by for the first time on Sunday, and I said, I don't think so. And they demand.
What kind of room is it?
The mask, mask down. I know, but you never see that years ago.
I want to make sure that the folks who are living
But they had students that wanted to go to the nomination.
go to Catholic. That was one of the basic.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I'm not saying I'm
They're a private school, go to Catholic.
like them that.
Not private though. So never be your
You know what's happening now? I think we and actually the popularity now. You know, one of the
I wrestle with that too. But if you talk to the people who are in that business, helping other people, I think it's a good idea. I think correcting the problem is different from the average.
Big news.
Yeah, for sure.
The only Canadian
Maybe the
you'll be able
injections
to
is what's
go to the
taking
CBC website.
medication.
So you go dabbing.
You're treating symptoms, not causes. So what leads
The
to
information
in
that
the
I
first place?
and I
I was thinking, no, I was trying to decide what to do with water in my hand. By the time I put my water down, I can be using it. Did you say they weren't good?
I did. We've looked around, there are other clubs.
Well, I don't judge. That's fine.
Well, I really looked around.
All right.
Price-wise and quality.
Travel to a bunch of different clubs in Southwest Ontario. I've been to some clubs here. I couldn't eat it. A repetition with Mr. P. Then get tired.
At a time. Like I say, they're telling us something. It's on 4 to 5 weeks. To our solutions, we may have more off-site.
You know, what do you think about it?
And family and children services.
That was nice.
You'll be
The best one was that highway market at home.
Yeah.
That was, they brought out all this things. I thought,
Tasting. It was just the word good that I was questioning. So I usually say good for what sometimes.
Junior says, I don't know.
As opposed to.
Yeah, my standards are way lower than yours. Way lower.
I cooked an off-site meeting. Oh, I know. No, he say Ottawa and
what's it called?
Yeah, they have the kind of deal.
But you return that.
Well, they got a really nice big table.
Are they in the same spot? No.
Yeah, yeah, the organization's also expressed they don't know if it's some houses on Heritage and Haven House in Cambridge. Yeah.
But they're in Kitchener on the same location. Yeah, it's the same organization. Yeah.
But now we got this. Now we got these. You're right. We got all of our programs. We have friends good guy here.
Like everyone else has.
Time of year for me at work. I have no plans.
Yeah, I can make it.
Show up in my
Typically, my school
That's one thing I really would like to do.
I can give you instructions how to do it. But you just want to listen to
He's gonna take it. That's all. Like the other guys do, they say, help.
because they do it all from the front.
Well, the only thing I've got my favorites I have. I think I have you, and I have Bobby Letter, and I have you.
Mine's unlisted.
I'm waiting.
And he's
I'd like to acknowledge that Tom, Jerry, and Bert Ferguson are joining us today.
Who are they? Who are you guys? Who are these guys?
So I'll just go over some of the announcements and things that I wanted to make sure we covered. We're still looking for people to come in and sign up for the Steve Bacon. I will send out another one for sign up for that if need be. I know the original one had the incorrect start time on it. The start time is 6:45 a.m., not 1 a.m., and it runs till 9. We sign up now. That week, this program will be part of November the 2nd. That'll be our regular club meeting for that. So if you're a member and you attend, your attending there will be subsidized by $18 for that morning. But all your guests are at the full price.
Okay, good.
Crown and Anchor sign up. Troy, did you want to talk to that at all?
Here. Over here.
If that's the table here, please come and sign up for Crown and Anchor. It's our obligation to fill in for a couple of spots there. Crown and Anchor is one of our major fundraisers, so we can't do all the good in the world that we're doing without the help of Crown and Anchor. Likewise, the Oktoberfest opening luncheon. Now, this is one of the few things that we run that we don't need a license for. And the Oktoberfest opening luncheon normally helps us fund our international projects. And so those tickets are now available. Allison, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, I do. All right, so Friday, October 5th, tickets are $60. John Vickery, who I'm just following around trying to absorb everything he knows in his head about this event, is going to be a really high demand event.
I'm sure you got more info than that.
Yeah. No, he's been great. He's been fabulous. So John is going to be in charge of, if you want a whole table, email John. You can CC me just for bookkeeping purposes if you want, but John can give you a table. If you want to buy less than 8 tickets, please email me. Let us know if you need to be invoiced to the club for your personal tickets. Let us know if you need an invoice for your corporate tickets. Tickets are going to sell out very quickly because it's the 50th anniversary, and there's a couple of high-profile guests that we can't name yet that will be attending. I can guarantee you it will be in your event if you're there. And then the last thing is what we'd like to coordinate this year a little differently is just getting people seated and get a beer in their hands really quickly. We will be selling Oktoberfest pins, club pins, and we will also be selling tickets for a commemorative 50 silver coin for the 50th anniversary. So what I need is a handful of very reliable volunteers. And the more volunteers we have, the better organized this will be. It'll be 3 hours of your time to help get people registered and to their seats as hosts and to sell those tickets. So could you please email me if you can find time to give me a couple of hours on that day. John, did I forget anything?
No.
Good.
Obviously.
Good stuff. You wonder why he's not one of my friends.
So those nice Oktoberfest pins is that this is the first time that I can remember that our club has actually had a Kitchener Westmount Oktoberfest pin. So we're hoping that yourselves, you'll buy one all for your hat or your lapel, and maybe your guests would all get one. This is another fundraiser that we're using, and hopefully we can use this to fund our Polio Plus for that. Turkey shoot. Where's our turkey? Our head turkey is Jack. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for that lovely introduction. We had such a good response from our event early in the summer that we've scheduled another one. This one's a little different. Those of you that did attend the last one know that it took quite a while for all the members that are interested in shooting at the little clay pigeons. It kind of split up. Those that went early ate in one sitting, and then those that came late. So we've got a different event. It is a turkey shoot. There will be prizes, frozen birds and other such things. But it'll be 5 shots instead of 25. There will be other games. There will also be a steak dinner following. Leo, from what I understand, they have put on extra steak, so you will be able to get an extra one.
Thank you.
It's $40, which is less, and that also includes a drink. And it is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. I don't think we've coordinated it, so this will replace the meeting for that week. So it's an additional event. Tuesday. Also, kids are encouraged and welcome. However, no one under 18 will be allowed to shoot. We tried to convince a couple to do running through the fields, but Ian wouldn't allow it. So if you do want to bring your children, they are more than welcome as well. So the invitation has been sent out, and I'd ask you to register. Hopefully most of you are getting the hang of Club Rotary. Thanks.
Good.
Yeah, the word got out how what a good shot that Larry was at our Larry Power at the last meet, so they wouldn't let the kids run through the field anymore. They weren't afraid of the rest of us. And Jack's correct. This one does not take the place of a regular meal, club meal. Actually, the Oktoberfest luncheon is what we're recognizing as the meal for that day as well, for that week. So they both fall in the same week. This Friday, September the 14th, from 2 till 5 p.m. is the 10-year anniversary of the Vasily School of International Affairs. And they're the people that are involved with the University of Waterloo that we supported with our Peace Scholarship donations. So they've emailed me and said that members of a club are welcome to attend this. I guess it's kind of a reception at the Vasily School. If you'd like to attend that, there's no cost. If you'd like to attend that, send me an email, and I'll try to make sure I get your name on the list. So that's this Friday at the Vasily School of International Affairs, 67 Herb Street in Waterloo, Ontario.
From what time again?
It is from 2 till 5.
Okay.
Okay, members' birthdays this week. Ed, help me with the last name.
Pawark.
What's that?
Pawark.
Pawark.
Eddie Pawark.
Eddie Pawark's birthday is on September the 15th. And spouse's birthday, I'm glad I had to go through this because it reminds me that Karen's birthday is on the 16th of this month. So I have to make sure I look after my wife. Anniversaries. Doug and Ann Fisher. That was on the 10th. 52 years. Poor Ann. 52 years of bad jokes. Margaret Tracy Ingalls.
She's a trooper.
September the 13th.
I'd say
47 years.
Contract, and then after that, go your. How many years were you really?
Laura and Larry Power. September the 13th. 32 years.
Whoa. Whoa.
Childbirth.
Ian Robertson and Rebecca.
Too happy.
September the 13th. What a day that was, eh? 15 years. Yes.
Nancy and I just did 62 yesterday.
Yeah, we announced you last week.
Oh, you did?
Oh, 62.
Let me see here. Bill Green joined our Rotary Club 18 years ago on September the 13th. And Judy Nairn joined our club 6 years ago on September the 13th. So there was a lot going on that September the 13th.
It was probably a Friday.
Yeah.
Community service opportunity. I'll let Ian speak to that.
My ask is going to be to see if anybody's available next Wednesday evening after dinner for about an hour. So get out your devices and look that up. Over the years, in my been 18 years for me in this club around this time, and what I've found is that these kind of ad hoc community service opportunities are a lot of fun. It's a good way to get to know the community. So last night I was at a dinner. A woman at the podium spoke to, she was from Food for Kids, and that's an organization who pack meals for children to take to schools. They even will pack meals for children who need to be fed over weekends and through the summer. But in this case, next Friday is a PD day, and they're going to be packing some lunches, 300 lunches or something like that. And they're just looking for a handful of volunteers to come and pack some boxes. Takes about an hour, and we just want to share that with the community. So if there is anybody who has an hour next Wednesday evening, just email me, see me after the meeting.
Where is it at?
It's their location is over near Fisher Hallman in Ottawa, David Burby Drive. So pretty easy thing. We may see if they have an ongoing need for this, but again, it's like one of those things that you feel like you're being part of the community by doing something like that, and it's an hour, so it should be dead easy. Anyway, come see me after the lunch today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. And Howard is joining us from the Kitchener Club as today, and he's got a few things he'd like to speak to.
Thank you very much. I am from the Kitchener Club and also quite active in the district. You know, there's a couple of things that I want to just start with a little aside, and that is that I've been going around to visit a lot of the Rotary clubs, and if you haven't done a makeup lately, go out and do it. It's so much fun. I'm learning so much about your club and what you're doing, and what Ian was saying just now. It's just you know, you can take so many ideas back to your own club and think, yeah, we should be doing that. You know? In any case, go do a makeup this week or next week. But more to the point is, last week I donated blood for the 49th time, and I'm just really, really thrilled about the whole thing. There's such a big need for it here in KW, and when I donated for the 25th time, I made a pledge that I would bring 25 people out to donate blood with me, and I ended up with about 28 people, so I was very, very happy about that. This time I'm doing 50, and I'm looking for 50 people to come out and donate with me. So am I crazy? I don't know. I've got about 18 people so far signed up. So I've left a little blurb there on the table for you. Have a read through it. If you can't donate blood, and many people can't, and I really consider myself to be one of the fortunate people that I can donate blood, because there's a lot of reasons that they won't take your blood today because of what happened back with the Red Cross thing. But if you can't donate blood, maybe you've got a relative, maybe you've got a friend who can donate blood. And my email address is at the bottom of the page. Have them send me an email, or you drop me a line and let me know that you're going to donate. Thanks very much.
And you see, sometimes those ideas come through the door at your own club. So this year I was celebrating my 25th time out donating, so I'm going to try to do what Howard does and go challenge 25 people to come and join me.
I'll join you.
I'll let you know when a votes that is. 50-50 draw. We got $165 in the pot today. And the last four numbers of your ticket is 4543. Come on up and try your luck. How about 4535?
I win.
Too bad.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
And the last number is 4536.
Oh, very good. I got 3 ones. Oh, 3 7.
Sorry, Mark. And with that, we're down to call on Mac. You want to come up and introduce our speaker?
Hi everybody. everybody. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our speaker today, Jay. Jay is the founder and executive director of GiveSome, a nationally based nonprofit that has developed an app designed to provide givers with the ability to see the impact they have when they give. The seed for GiveSome was planted in 2002 when Jay spent a year volunteering in Namibia as a school teacher through a Canadian-based charity. Jay was inspired when he was able to see the difference that small acts of generosity had on people and the community. GiveSome is partnering with charities and companies across Canada to provide a unique giving experience designed for the giver. Jay's mission through GiveSome is to engage givers, propel charities, and inspire good around the world. Fellow Rotarians, Jay.
There you go.
Right. Now you can't see him.
Yeah.
You don't have to turn them on.
It's the one with the ink mark.
I don't know. There we go.
There we go. Pretty
That's okay.
There we go. That's good.
Just keep trying.
All right.
I marked them with a pen one time.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here. I've had the privilege to speak at a few clubs across Ontario the last couple of years since launching this. Do I need this? Okay, can I walk with this?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
standing in one spot.
All right, is that better? Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So I was just saying thank you for having me here. This is I didn't know I knew of the Rotary a couple of years ago, but I didn't know as much as I do now, and I've grown a real appreciation for what you do and who you are and the good that you impact. So thanks for having me. I don't know if someone maybe just give me the hook when we get close, and I'll try and leave a few minutes for questions at the end. But just to start, I have a question. Has anyone felt at any point in their life compelled by something that you knew would take you completely out of your comfort zone? Whether it's a small thing, a big thing, just there was that nagging or that thing inside that you knew you needed to do something. You maybe didn't know that you didn't maybe arguing with yourself whether you were the right person to do it, but you just knew there was something you had to do. And I think we all should be in those places periodically and put ourselves in those places where we need to leave our comfort zone and branch out and do something that don't feel like we're terribly gifted at doing, but that will challenge us in many ways. And that was a bit in the bio there that you read, so I'll expand on that story. So back in 2002, I got on a plane. I'd never been to Africa before. But I felt like for whatever reason, I felt like I needed to go. And I didn't want to go for a couple of weeks. So I signed up with a charity out of Toronto, and I said, I'll go for a year. I was 24 years old, didn't really know what I was doing in life. Not that I was aimless, but I didn't know exactly what was next. And so I thought, let's go and experience what life is like in another culture. And so I flew to Namibia, which, if you haven't heard, is just above South Africa, on the west coast of Africa. And I landed in Windhoek, and this woman I'd never met, obviously, picked me up and drove me 5 hours north into pretty much the middle of nowhere. She dropped me off to a woman who was from Minneapolis, and she drove me immediately into the slum of that town called Grootfontein. And all my baggage was in the van, and she pulls out and she finds this man named Kamadi, who was 25. So a year older than I was, and he says, she says, I didn't know this was happening. This is Kamadi, you're gonna spend the next 10 days with him. And she got back in the van and left. And I had my knapsack, and here I am in Grootfontein spending 10 days with this perfect stranger. And Kamadi, I'll never forget, he was with this big bear hug, and he says, Jay, first thing he says, Jay, let me show you my house. And so we started walking down these dirt roads, and we found his house, which was a cement block house with a tin roof. And he puts a skeleton key in the door, and he opens the front door into his living room. And his living room had a plastic chair and a plastic table, and literally a light bulb hanging from some wires from the ceiling. And he looks at me with a big smile, and he says, this is my living room. And it was just two more rooms I want to show you, which are the only other 2 rooms in his house. And he takes me through that living room into his kitchen. And his kitchen literally had a stove that was broken that he had put a hot plate on top of. And that was it. There was no cupboards, no cutlery or plates or anything. There's no fridge or microwave, just a broken stove with a hot plate. And big smile on his face, this is my kitchen. And it was just one room left, and he was kind of evening, and he literally went and unscrewed that light bulb in his living room and brought it into his bedroom, screwed it in, and said, "This is my bedroom." And in his bedroom, he had a ripped piece of foam that would have been, would have covered maybe half his body, and a blanket. And that was it. He was 25 years old. That was everything he owned in life. And again, with a big smile, I said, "Jay, this is my living room, and this is where I'm going to live the next 10 days. And Kamadi and I became the closest of friends. And this is 16 years later. He is still one of my best friends in this world. I have a six-year-old son whose middle name is Kamadi. We finally got the chance to meet Kamadi a couple of years ago. And so that started this journey for me. And I lived with him for 10 days. I then moved down the street. I by no means lived in any luxury. But, sorry, I have a picture actually here. This is us, young Jay and young Kamadi, about 16 years ago. So I moved out of his house, I moved down the street, and I moved into my own place that they were renting for me. It was about the same size and everything, but at least had furniture in it. And I started struggling going to bed at night on my bed, knowing that Kamadi was continuing to sleep on the concrete floor. And so I had to raise money for that year. I wasn't making money as a teacher. And they were very, don't give too much away because this is all you have to live on this year. And so I did something that day that literally started to change the course of my life. And this was before the days of Kickstarter and GoFundMe. And I sent an email home to some of my friends here in Ontario. And I described Kamadi, talked about our friendship, described who he was, and said I literally wanted to fundraise for a mattress, so you could sleep on a mattress at night, and a small fridge, so you could actually have food in his house. I don't know if you've been to Namibia, it's a very desert type of country, it's very hot. And so I did my first fundraising campaign, I sent an email. I knew I needed probably about $300 or $400 to cover both, and I got $7,000 sent over about 3 days later. So I must have hit a chord, and it was way too much money. To Kamadi's credit, he gave most of it away. But we managed to get him to get this mattress and this fridge. And I grew up, here in Ontario. My parents gave to charity. I saw that as a kid growing up. I got my first paper route when I was like 9 or 10 years old or something like that. And I remember saying to my parents, I want to take probably just a few dollars of those days and give those to charity. It was kind of ingrained in me. But this year, 2002 in Namibia, was the first time that I can recollect that I was ever somewhere where someone's giving actually came to life. And I will never forget when that small fridge was put into Kamadi's kitchen, and he had this mattress now, and we got a couple more light bulbs for his house. I'll never forget his reaction, and tears rolling down his face, and just so amazed that Canadians he knew he'd likely never meet would actually pool money together and give it to him for just some basic needs of his. And that forever changed my thinking on giving. Giving was, I guess I realized, something that a check in the mail, you put a stamp on it back in those days. Your bank account goes down a little bit and you get a tax receipt and often a thank you note. But that day giving became something that I realized actually does make an impact on someone around the world or on people. And if that wasn't enough, literally the next day or the day after, I happened to be visiting with Kamadi again, and these women, about 7 or 8 women that he called mamas from the town, knocked on his front door, and they came in. I guess word had gotten out that these Canadians had sent over some money for some basic needs for Kamadi, and they were all kind of caring for him. And they walked in the house as I'm there, and they walked in and looked at this mattress and looked at the fridge and broke out into this dance that they roped me into, and I'm completely embarrassing myself. And then at the end of it, they broke down into tears, just so overwhelmed that strangers would provide for someone in their community. And giving just changed, and that was that little tug in my heart. It was almost like, Jay, you need to do something about this. We're all human. There's probably a lot of people who either are not givers or are givers, but don't totally understand the actual impact they're having when they give. And so this sort of nagging thing nagged at me for 11 years. And I got married, I had a son, I moved to Guelph, but it never left me. And then I won't get into the details, but I was in Las Vegas at a conference, and I came face to face with essentially what had happened to me. And I did the math, and it was 11 years ago I said I was going to do something about it. I still hadn't. And I quit my job that day with a 1-year-old at home. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. And so out of that came Give Some. Now what Give Some is, I'll boil it down to 4 things, really. So our vision is to get more people giving. It's literally everybody giving is our vision. We did not want to become another charity that raised money for our things. We wanted to be a linkage between people who have the means to give and charities who are doing great things in the world. And so to do that, I started off by going to weird places, to talk to complete strangers, to find out, to identify people that would not sort of identify themselves as givers, and to find out why. Why don't you give? And had to figure out a way to make them tell me why without them feeling bad, and I figured that out. I can tell you about it later. But got all of these great conversations and answers and results from people who were open to admitting they don't give, and these are all the reasons why. And we came back and we took all that data. This is all these different towns across Ontario. We took that data and we said, I don't know what to create Give Some, but let's just build it up based off of this. We want people who aren't giving to start giving. Let's create what they're saying are the reasons why they're not giving. Let's solve those problems. And it came down to 4 things. Number 1 was fees, and that was by far the most common thing that people said was, if I was to give $50, I would need to know that a good majority of that is going, and there's fear around only a percentage of that actually going to what they want to give it to. I think sometimes people use that as an excuse, personally, and I'm not against fees, but I said, okay, if that's the main one, I haven't done anything yet. Let's try and launch something based off of a model that doesn't charge fees off of what people give. And my friends and family thought it was crazy, but we did it, and I'll explain that in a minute. So number 1, no fees. Number 2 was small donations. I talked a lot to millennials or the younger generations, and they have this thinking that unless I can give substantial amounts of money, I'm probably not making a difference, so why bother? And I heard that they were encouraged to give, they wanted to give, but they want to wait till they're done university, had a good job, and then they would start giving. But by then you've created this habit of not giving, and then who wakes up one day and is all of a sudden generous and starts giving? So I thought, well, let's make the second-year university student and the millionaire down the street equally as important on this platform. And so you can only give $2, $5, or $10. Now, technically, you could hit $10 a whole bunch of times if you wanted. But now the university student can go on here and see that $2 is one of the 3 options. The most they could give is 10, and now they're valuable in this. And we're not looking at a few people to give a lot of money, but a ton of people to give a little bit and to get into this habit of generosity. So small donations, number 2. Number 3 is you see the impact. So think about what I saw with Commodity and then those women that walked in the next day. You cannot give on the Give Some platform without getting video footage back of that particular project that you funded coming to life wherever it is in the world. And we do that through our connections with charities. And so whenever a project's funded, 100% of that money goes to the charity. And the only thing we ask of that charity, whether they're doing something right here in Kitchener or in Uganda, Africa, is that they pull out a smartphone and they just record whatever it was that was funded. And they send that recording. It's not Hollywood. We've actually turned back Hollywood type videos. We just want authentic, real footage. Here's that project coming to life. They send that to us, and then we send that to all the donors across Canada and around the world. That's number 3, and then number 4 is we're project-driven versus charity-driven. And the reason for that is that makes things tangible. And so, I'm seeing a lot of interest in that especially the younger generations are a little, they want to know exactly where their money's going. So we make projects tangible. So it's supporting charities' work, but it's charities breaking down that work into a tangible project. And then we post that project on Give Some and fund that. And so people know when I give, this is what it's going to, and then I can actually see the impact of that. So those were the 4 things, and then so out of that came Give Some. Right now it's an app. We are going to make this web-based. We launched, I was just telling Jerome, we launched about a year and a half ago. We're already in 24, 25 countries around the world. We literally have Haitians and several countries within Africa, people going, I've never met, I probably never will meet, going on and making donations to projects and then seeing the impact of what they're doing. So this is the impact of Give Some users. This is a little bit old. This was within about 6 months of no marketing or anything, of just word spreading and going through social media and through corporate connections, where this started to spread and the impact that we were having. So not massive dollars raised, but again, this is all through $2, $5, and $10 donations, and this is within about 6 months of launch. So we're about a year and a half in. It's grown significantly since then. And what we do, so back to where we had to come up with a way to be able to run the organization ongoing without charging fees. based off of people's donations. And so we decided we're going to do two things, and we're split on two different focuses. One is on the social and one's on the corporate. And so on the social side, we are creating this app that continues to have more and more projects, more partner charities across Canada, more opportunities for people to discover interests of theirs, types of projects that they care about, and we're going to build in this tracking that shows them the types of projects they're giving to and the impact they're having. Right now we track projects donated to and lives impacted. So when a charity submits a project, we ask them, when this is fulfilled, how many lives does this impact? So instead of tracking dollars spent, we're tracking how many times you actually decided to give and the number of human beings you've impacted through that giving. So that's on the social side. On the corporate side, to offset the fees, we started going to companies and started getting introduced to companies. We met with some of the largest companies across Canada. I don't know how we did it, but we got in front of these people saying, look, you are giving money, you are active, and you're looking for ways to be able to tell that story. And so we created this thing called founding partnerships. And so we have 15, we need 13 more founding partners. These are companies who will be forever recognized within the app as seeing merit in what we're doing and wanting their brand aligned to this concept of getting people more interested in giving, getting new givers giving. And so you can see some of the companies that we partner with out of the gate. And then I had a very interesting conversation with the CEO of Great Westlife, who said in our first meeting, it was him and his lawyer and me in this huge boardroom, and he said, I love what you're doing, I want to become a founding partner, but here's what I really care about. And he put this challenge in front of me, and this also helped open up a huge opportunity with GiveSome. He said, I have 15,000 employees across Canada, and I give away approximately $10 million a year. And I have 3 problems that if you could help me solve, I'm listening. He said, number one, most of my people, if I'm honest with myself, don't know where that money's going, even my own employees. So that's not keeping things from having an impact on the final end, but if they could know more about that and I can engage them, that would be so much better. Number two, the ones that do know where the money's going, if I'm honest with myself, probably wouldn't choose those same charities that we as a company have chosen, because there's so many different charities out there, so many different interests, and so they may be aware of it, but I'm likely not engaging their heart necessarily because it's not the things that they would give to. And then number three, I struggle every year at telling that story appropriately, without it looking like Great Westlife gave all this money so that we could tell people we gave all this money. So if you could help us with those 3, I don't know the app space, this is what he said, I don't know the app space, but I will work on getting you 15,000 downloads from our people, and then I have 9 million customers across Canada. And if you could open up an avenue for me to connect with them, I'll consider that as well. And so that was enough incentive, came back to Guelph, figured it out. I was actually, long story, I was watching an Oprah Winfrey rerun about 2 in the morning. Going through my wallet, I found a gift card from Canadian Tire that had expired by like a few days. That was like $50 or something, like a Christmas present or something. And so it was garbage, so I'm holding it, watching Oprah talk about giving, and this idea occurred to me. And we launched what is called the gift card. I quickly went to the internet and like, is this word taken yet? And it wasn't, so we trademarked it, gift card. And I thought, instead of creating a card like a gift card that lets people acquire things, what if we gave them a gift card that had money on it that let them give away? And what if we offered that to Great Westlife, and Stefan, the CEO, could take a portion of that 10 million that he's going to give away anyways and give it to his people, and let his people make donations with some of that money that's going to charity, and let them engage with charities they care about, and then let them see the impact of that. And so that's where the gift card emerged, and we had that conversation, and it's grown substantially since then. We actually launched this in September at the University of Guelph. We went to Pizza, because I know they're quite charitable, and they gave us, in that meeting, they gave us a few $1,000s that we put on Pizza gift cards, gave to every University of Guelph leadership student that was running Frosh Week, and got a standing ovation when we said, this is the first time in Canada we are doing this. You get to use Pizza's money to make donations to causes you care about. And it was like cheering, and then Pizza put something extra on the back. They said, and after you make the donation, bring this card into a Pizza in Guelph, and we'll give you a free slice of pepperoni pizza. and we literally got a standing ovation from that. So giving pepperoni pizza is huge. So this gift card has now been launched. We've done about 70 or 80 campaigns in about 11 or 12 months. This is something that small companies, large companies can use. And so a company can join with us and become a founding partner and be seen throughout the app as a company whose company and culture aligns with these values and wants people giving and wants people to be able to connect with things that they're passionate about. And then also the other opportunity with companies is to partner with us on these gift cards. And we've even started, this has been taking off a life of its own. There's been events that we've been part of with hundreds of people in the room saying, can we do a pin that's on a screen at the front? And so at a conference, we can literally connect with that company or that organization or that charity, put a couple of projects live on the app, and then direct people in that room to use a pin that a company may have given, like we did with Meridian, and then have people download the app, put that pin in, which literally gives them some money in their account to make a donation. And so we're able to do that. So you have employee and customer engagement, social media resources, stats, and it leads to more people giving. So there's an onboarding message when that happens that you get a message from that company that gave out that card that says, hey, this is what we're about, make a donation on us, and then we track what people are interested in. And we've had companies start to talk to us about, we want to use some of our donation dollars to give to our people just to see what they're interested in. Instead of doing a survey of what they would give to, we want to actually let them give and then see in the background what happens. What kind of causes do they choose? What kind of things are they drawn to? And so through the background of the app, we don't reveal people's identities, but we say, look, you gave out 200 cards. This is where that money went. Here's the impact it had. And what I love is this one here. We can track how many people set up an account, use that company's money, and when that $15 or $20 or $2 ran out, how many continued giving of their own money. And that company can now see, look, we use some of our money to initiate giving amongst our employees or customers, and this percentage of those people actually continue giving, and here's the growing footprint of impact they're having, which is really interesting. And so that, in a nutshell, is what we're doing. It's really, we're trying to redefine the space in a way. A lot of charities that I'm talking to, a lot of companies I'm talking to are talking about how the younger generations are not giving like the older generations gave, and trying to figure out how do we create ways to connect, meaningful connection. And if you're in the room and this is of interest to you, I am not the expert in the world, but I've had conversations for about 4 straight years on this topic. If I could boil it down to 2 things, it's these 2 things. Number 1, if I give money, where is this money actually going? And the better that you can draw a picture around that, I think the more connection you'll make with that younger giver. And then number 2, what difference did it make? And if you could draw a picture to that afterwards and think of that donor after the fact, like we do with the video footage, I think you're now connecting to them. I know where this is going, or I have an idea of the kind of impact this will have, and you've thought of me after you did that project. And I feel like I'm part of it because I got to see and experience what happened. And so, which is the little heart inside the G, I think we are doing something that is targeting people's hearts, not just their heads. I think people know, we all know there's need in the world, right here in Kitchener, other places around the world, but that's not necessarily translating to more people giving. I think we can connect with the heart and bring people into the giving experience and actually show them and reveal to them, you can actually make an impact. And here's the people whose lives you've impacted. That starts to translate into people being more engaged in that. So that's what we do in a nutshell. If you are a charity, you represent a charity, if you represent a company and you're into giving and you want opportunities to give in ways that make more meaningful connection with our employees or customers, I'd love to chat with you. Not saying I want to sell you anything, I'd love to have some conversations about that with you. We are, the next iteration of the app is the one last thing I wanted to just throw out there. Let's toss this into the sea here, but we are creating a carousel. So if you go on the app right now, there's Project Live, and you can choose what project and you can fund $2, $5, or $10 towards that project. Where we're going, and I was just sharing this at lunch, is where your club can literally have its own carousel. And so you can now, when we develop this, and we're doing this over the next 6 months, you can literally have a space within the app that makes you overnight mobile. And it'll be a landing page that's your page that is logoed with you, that talks about your mission, and is projects that you can put up. I'm not suggesting this would replace any of your fundraising. A lot of the Rotary clubs that I've visited are doing tremendous things, have been doing them forever, and it's working. But this is now a place and a platform that you can use to add on to that, where you know there's no fees. GiveSome's not making money off of whatever donations. We're literally giving you everything that comes in. And you can use this as a platform to connect with people who may not be at a club or at an event when something's happening. They can connect from outside of that geographical area, and you can show people the impact. And then you can also use this as a tool to show people video footage of the projects being fulfilled, and say, look, we as a Rotary raised this money, but look at what actually happened. Here's one of the stories that you can pull out of that project. You can show people. And so that's something that, for all my conversations with Rotary clubs, through charities and companies, that we are designing to be able to make available in the next 6 months to charities across Canada here. Yeah.
I think there will be, we gotta have an opportunity for questions. We like to stop hard at 1:30, so
yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's it, so it's good. Yeah, any questions? Whoa, okay. Yeah, I think you were first here. Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm curious about the gift card. So if I'm an employer and I give a $50 gift card to one of my employees, I don't get charged $50 right away, do I?
So what happens is you've given that money up front into our account.
So it goes into your account?
So it goes into our account. So it's technically not on the card and then in their account. They are essentially, what you're doing is saying, here's $50 that we're going to give. We'll let you direct that where you want to give it.
Got it.
We then write the check. What's nice though is we want to treat companies the same way we treat givers, like just the average person. And whatever money isn't used on those cards, we give back to you.
Oh, okay. So there's sort of a time frame.
Yes, and you set the time frame.
Oh, okay.
So we've had time frames of 24 hours.
Yep.
It's an event. If it's not used at midnight, money comes back. We've had time frames of a year, and that's more with an employee program.
And is GiveSome a charity, or is it just a conduit to
we are a nationally registered nonprofit. So we're everything, but we just haven't got charitable status, so that we can connect with organizations that don't also have charitable status. If we were a charity, we would only be able to partner with other charities. So
I would get a receipt from whatever charity. If I have a business, I would get a receipt from some other charity through your organization.
You would get a receipt from us. This is my partner's area. But you would get a receipt from us, in a nutshell, where you'd be able to write off as either an HR initiative or a marketing initiative.
Oh, I see.
So your market or HR dollars are now marketing or doing HR initiatives, but the net result is that money is going to charity. And so everything can be written off against that.
Okay.
And then we have companies calling those charities saying, you receive that money that we raised for you? Yes. So you could confirm that. But
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to know from a personal level, as opposed to a corporate level, if I wanted to buy some gift cards, like say it's a Christmas gift, and can I expect to see that at a Shoppers Drug Mart anytime soon, Maria? As opposed to like a Canadian Tire card,
I love Shoppers Drug Mart, so it's one of my favorite places to shop. I got my pin on my phone. Yeah, there you go. We would love to get there one day. We've actually had individuals. We had a woman last year order gift cards for Halloween, and to all of the teenagers that came to her door, she gave a chocolate bar and a card and said, I know you have a phone, you may not have a ton of money to give, here's $5 on us. And we could track where that money was given, we went back and said, here's where your money went. And if it wasn't given, it came back to her. So we've had stocking stuff. There's a lot of different ways that they can be used. Right now we have a Shopify site linked to our website, givesome.com, and you can order them from there.
Oh great, that's good.
Yeah.
Using the two examples, the Great West Light, 15,000 employees, or the Pizza, I'm not sure how many students. What was the engagement of the 15,000 employees? Like, did half of them use it and engage in it within the time period, or?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with Pizza because that was the first one. We gave out 1,100 of them, and I would say about half of them engaged on that. So when we launched this before Android had actually launched. So when we gave them out, we said if you have an Android phone, it's actually coming out next week, which probably hurt us a bit because I couldn't act in the moment. The iOS worked, like the Apple iPhones worked right away. But they got that money back and they can reinvest that. That was also our very first one. So when we went back to Great West, they decided to do 1,100 of their leaders across Canada as the first step, like Montreal, Toronto, and across Canada. And the engagement on that, I don't have it in front of me, it was about 50% as well. And so, but now after running 70 to 80 of those, are one of our first two, we've learned so much and we're helping. We did, I won't name the company, but this is Wednesday, Monday morning, 7 a.m., a company took $10,000 of their giving budget and gave it on 50 cards, so $200 a card. They gave it to 50 of their unsuspecting employees. 46 of the 50 were actually there that morning, and all 46 used them. And we had even a person that morning use all 200 on his card, gave to the projects like right there on the spot. And so we've learned so much from last September to now on what drives engagement, whether you're focused on customers or employees. And so we give tips, we can help you message that to draw them in and make sure the engagement's high. Now we have had some companies say we don't actually want high engagement. We want to look, and I'm not suggesting this for you, we want to look charitable and know that we look that way, and if it's not used, we get the money back. And so we've had companies admit that to us, so some don't want big engagement. But
okay, we've got one more question. Belle, I'll pull you up here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Just a question about the reach of your app.
Yes.
So is it something that people from Canada with Canadian phones can use, or could it also be used by people internationally?
Yes,
like
it can be.
Someone that lives in or whatever.
Yeah, it can be used internationally. Right now, it's available at, I think it's 25 countries around the world. I am not a technology freak. We have an app development team that's doing this, but we have had calls saying, like we went to Mexico, we got invited to Mexico to do a project. It wasn't live in Mexico. I called the app team, they just flicked it on in Mexico, and all of a sudden, it's searchable and downloadable in Mexico. So it's very easy to do that. Yeah. So the funds are Canadian funds. So if someone in Namibia gives $2, it's $2 Canadian. The app does actually, we work in Canadian funds right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I met Jay.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, I met Jay. I was actually Karen and I actually went to the his launch, his soft launch for his first app in Guelph. It was kind of tough to find this in this back narrow stairwell upstairs. You know, like you almost had to have a pass card to get in. But it was fun. It was a great night. It was unbelievable. I met Jay through the past president of Investors Group, who I think was probably a little bit instrumental for him to be introduced to some of the people at Great West and things like that. But you know what? I always thought that this would be a fantastic company for us to perhaps partner with for our international committee, who are doing a nice project. But if we had an extra $2,000 or $3,000, we could do this much more, or something specific, and that's exactly where Jay would step in. Jay.
Jay, thank you for coming to speak to us today. Thank you. It's tradition for our club that to thank our speakers, we restore the eyesight of someone in a third world country.
Oh, wow.
So that is done on your behalf. Kimutai, a 78-year-old male, has been restored in Kenya, Africa. Very interesting technology, and the charity giving, just a personal thing. My mother-in-law went to Thailand last year, taught English for 3 weeks at a school that was unbelievable, changed her life. And she came back and funded a project for about $10,000 just from private donations. So it hit home for sure. I think everybody in the room is always looking for different ways to give. And this is certainly an exciting one, and as Max said, I think I'll be buying a bunch of these for gift cards. Yeah. So cool. Huge thing for me. All right. Thank you very much.
We have our camera. Get it out. Get it out. All right. I know that we're just past the minute here, so if you have some extra questions for Jay, you can hang around for a little bit. But anybody else, if there's nothing else for the good Rotary,